that to be a president, you run for elections, get 50 plus 1%. If you lose the election, you wait for another 5 years and try. We agreed if you have to make laws, you run for the National Assembly or Senate. Now, if you cannot make it there, you cannot determine the policies of the country because your laws, you don't have enough numbers, then what you should do is to wait for the next general election and gather the numbers to decide how you will pass your tax laws, how you will determine. This is what we agreed as Kenyans, and we negotiated this constitution. This constitution was negotiated when Raila was in government. When Uhuru was part of those negotiations, I was in Naivasha myself. When we were negotiating this constitution, you are saying the old system of state where the president was appointing judges, he was appointing the DPP, he was appointing the ministers, he was appointing all the the officers of the state without even going through the National Assembly or the Parliament. It's wrong. The constitution has been overtaken by time. Now let us agree this is how we shall run our country. We negotiated this constitution. This constitution was not negotiated in Lancaster.
All right.
So someone coming now to tell me that it's the high cost of living, that's why we should go and throw stones, it makes no sense at all. Because the cost of living and everything else is determined through an act that is called the Finance Act. You know? You lose that, go to do your politics well, next 5 years, win, so that you determine how that Finance Act works. Okay, you're saying that there's a high cost of living. There's the issue of petrol there, the food prices are all there when you look at the economics of it. So how do you solve it? You will not solve these things by operating outside the state. And I am personally very disappointed that I see lawyers who are in the civil society, I see lawyers who are in the opposition, like Martha Karua, Kalonzo Musyoka, Eugene Wamala, who have decided conveniently to forget that for you to present grievances, you must operate within the state. I am so surprised to see them supporting violence as a way to discuss with the state. I am very surprised and disappointed to see some of the friends in the civil society, as I see them now, saying, let the president and Raila sit down to talk about what? You know,
so from your own assessment, you don't think they should sit down?
From my own assessment, I see it this way. They are structures. They are actually structures. The leader of opposition is an institution, and it operates within parliament. This is how we agreed. We said the minority leader will be pushing the opposition agenda within parliament. The leader of opposition can be speaking from outside, but the leader of opposition cannot determine how the government must run. He is supposed to be criticizing, saying how bad the government is, how what. He's not supposed to be sabotaging the state. You don't have to, you don't have to like me if I'm your president, but you have to love your country.
Okay.
You should not sabotage the state because you don't agree with me.
All right.
So my way forward, and I think there's no other way, is people to follow what we agreed, how we said we will govern. Don't create a mess like what is being done now, and then put people, stakeholders, I'll get my supporters to throw the stones, I will make the noise, keep changing the agenda, and then when there is enough chaos, I will call the international. You know, you saw Kalonzo Musyoka reporting that, did you see how CNN all reported us? You know, that's stage 2. Let the international make noise. Let the ambassadors make noise. Then you guys of civil society come out and demand that we sit down, we talk. And then we will demand that we have a piece of that government. So I'm saying this. We agreed. Raila, Uhuru, President Mwai Kibaki, Deputy Prime Minister Uhuru Kenyatta, we all agreed how we were going to run this country. Things coming outside it is wrong, it's unfair,
Thank you.
is just
Okay.
wrong to the country and the world as a.
But listening keenly to what they were saying, I didn't hear any call for violence, because they are calling for demonstrations. Come with your souvenirs on your head, operate within, the stipulated structures that has been given as enshrined in the Constitution. So you can't really.
We live in this country.
Yes.
We know that
Or call
every
for throwing
demonstration that has been called, people have died, people have been maimed, people have been injured.
Well, which leads me.
Actually, the call for demonstration is a call to violence.
They
Right. Never
no,
actually.
No. Otherwise, Mheshimiwa Mungatana, otherwise it wouldn't be in the Constitution.
No.
It's
Listen to me. Listen to me.
In this case,
no, listen to me.
I consider my chair. I consider
37 says you demonstrate and produce a petition. There's no petition that has been produced so far.
All right.
What petition has been produced?
Have his rejoinder.
I don't want us to discuss any extremist position here for the simple reason that all of us are reasonably well educated. Honorable Mugatana, nobody has said that anybody or our side doesn't want President Ruto to govern. In fact, many of us have always told him, try and govern well. Even when you may have the conditions and circumstances that we have currently. What many of us have been saying, and this is an issue that I find, there's a level of insensitivity I find, and the chair, with due respect, I respect you highly.
Jibal, allow me also to take him.
The issue that I wanted to raise with you is that if you feel that our country is okay and our country doesn't have issues which could be outstanding, and some of us have been saying, for example, the agreement that you made in Naivasha was not actually what Kenyans wanted. What you did is you went and mutilated the agreement which had come from Bomas, where you changed. Wait.
That is a Gillespie draft.
Let me raise my issue. Please let me raise my issue. There are some who believed that we needed to have a constitution that was going to agree with, not presidential, but which was going to be parliamentary. Those issues are there, you know that.
Yes.
We agreed that whatever that was outstanding, the 20% that everybody has been talking about, can be sorted out as we move along. And that is why I agree with you that we don't have any other mechanism on how these issues can be managed politically and managed intellectually by making sure we get the constitutional lawyers, we get the president to agree, we get the opposition to agree. And this is what I'm saying, and this is actually my challenge to leadership like you, my leader. I would want you to maybe give me an exit strategy. Because for us, this is no longer a Raila matter. For us, it is not about the legitimacy of the presidency of William Ruto. For us, there are certain issues that are coming up which are actually constitutional. For example, how people are employed within the executive, what has been the distribution of those employment positions, how have we managed our minorities. Wait. So I'm saying this.
You have to finish so that we can answer
I'm finishing.
Because
the approach you're using is exactly the same approach that I had my brother Farah Maalim say, that according to him, instead of having a failed state, then we better, in fact, even end up having a dictatorship.
An anarchy.
In order,
I have never called for dictatorship.
No. Let him finish.
That is what he said.
Just let him finish.
And you're not giving me
I gave you enough time.
No.
He needs a rejoinder as well.
He is saying that the constitution in Naivasha is we manipulated it. How? We were sitting there day and night.
My brother, I was in parliament.
We were all there. That side and this side. We had the back side and
we shall revisit that memorial. Just a moment.
You cannot make wrong assumptions before the national TV.
Today I knew there will be chaos. I came with my bell. So let's hear from.
I initially wanted to do a rejoinder, not a rejoinder actually, to pick up from where Senator Mugatana had just concluded. He's added something to it as well. all these demos is not about the issues affecting the people of Kenya. All these demos are about Raila Odinga. And we have said not once, severally, that it is not the role of the opposition to decide how the government is to govern. Their role is to oppose. As simple as that. Let them oppose, let them check the government, let them say as much as they want to say, but in a manner that is within the law. Now, when you listen to the several clips, those are around 10 or so leaders who spoke from that clip that we had. None, other than 2 people, the former president who spoke when he was drunk. I probably can excuse
You
him.
cannot.
That's
really uncomfortable. No, you cannot confirm that he was drunk.
Yeah.
I mean,
How do you confirm he was drunk? Did you have any alcohol that you actually?
we all had President.
No. I think.
No, you're a lawyer.
Just
You're
a
a lawyer.
Particular day.
I think that's reductive of you to. Just a moment. Just. I think that is reductive of you to say, and I want you to actually redact that particular set, please.
I was going to say this. Of all the people who spoke, all of them were calling for, we need to sit back and not sabotage the country, not sabotage the economy of the country. Other than him who said, if you want me, come for me. The other person who spoke slightly off was also Kalonzo, who now was talking beyond the locals, the issues we are affecting Kenya. The rest of the Kenyan leaders who spoke here, because we all listen here. Let us deal with the issues affecting Kenya. Let us not demonstrate and kill our economy and kill our Kenyans and kill our people. And the most unfortunate thing, Debal, is this. The organizers of all these demonstrations are failing to appreciate that. Though we have all along said we are entitled under the Constitution of Kenya to demonstrate, there is a responsibility that goes along with the organizer. He is supposed to sit back and say, look, if we must demonstrate, this is step 1, 2, 3, 4. Give out the notice. Tell your people that, look, if you are going to do peaceful demonstration, you are not supposed to be armed. If you are going to go out there and demonstrate, you are not going to destruct people's property. Don't maim, don't kill. What we have been experiencing is not anything akin to peaceful demonstration. And that is why we are saying...
Who's maiming and who's killing?
I mean, look at the attack, for example, in Bondo police station. I mean, guys in combat with guns just raiding a police station.
But
Will you call that a demonstration?
Okay.
We will not. And that is why we are saying that the cartoon, a handshake with a smoking gun, that my brother Senator Nyonga called smoking gun, and a break to retreat. We say Kenyans are entitled to demonstrate, but since when did we experience peaceful demonstration organized by the opposition, and in this case by Raila Odinga?
Thank you.
Never ever.
All right.
So let us have a conversation beyond this. The theme of everyone, if we were to be talking about the theme of dealing with the issues affecting Kenyans, this is the time. Lastly, a good number of them, which I think this must have been the provost from the Nairobi church, yes, provost and the religious leaders, saying that we need to have a conversation about it. And I've said it's not about the issues affecting Kenya, it's about Raila. But then, Kenya Kwanza has said, and we still say, in fact, tomorrow, by the way, we are going to be having our meeting as the Kenya Kwanza bipartisan team, saying we haven't taken a back seat. Our party is still ready to have a conversation. But this conversation, these bipartisan talks, is supposed to be on the provisions that are within the law. We had a framework agreement which we were progressing very well, where issues had been identified. Parties had agreed.
Thank you.
This is the first, this is the second, up to the 8th issue.
Okay.
So we are saying if what the leaders are calling for is anything to do with what the Constitution can protect, we are ready to still engage because we love Kenya more than the sort of issues we experience.
Honorable Sige, I just wanted to advance or express this question to you because if you look at what we have on the front page of the People Daily, there are there's that question that is being asked there, or Uhuru is asking questions. What does my mother have to do with anything? What do my children have to do with anything? If your problem is me, come for me. Is that question or message there clear?
Remember...
No, it's just a bipolar answer, yes or no? Is that question there?
Before I answer, I must create the context. I must put it in context.
No.
I must put this in context, and I'll answer you a yes or
no. Because I want to arrive to what actually...
It is a question, but the context within which it's being asked is completely off.
Okay, just a moment.
Above the law.
I'm trying to drive to actually ask you, is it clear to you? The question, is it clear to you?
Very clear.
Very clear.
Yes.
So even if the question, even if he's in a drunken stupor, as you suggest that he was drunk, the question is clear, isn't it?
Yes.
Thank you. All right, let's hear from Farah Malim.
On the same question?
You wanted to weigh in on the same question as well, I see.
You see,
but then you didn't allow me to put context.
You see, let me...
Because even as
okay,
I attempt to answer the first question, that do my kids have anything to do with this, or my mother? And if the problem is me, come for me. The context of this is what the police had done, and I wanted to say that none of us, including himself, is above the law. If there is anything that you're doing that is against the law, you cannot come and put your mother and your children and purport to say that they are the ones who are affected. They are citizens of Kenya. They are above 18. They've got nothing to do with him as a former president.
Right.
They are adults who take their responsibility if they were to go against the law.
All right. So if these 28 guns were found, or it is alleged that were found in the son's house.
Yes.
If after all they are licensed guns, will the government really be taking special umbrage with the 20, or you cannot really license?
Remember the bar at some point, Kenya was a state of impunity, where everything else, I mean, the presidency of Uhuru, the period that we were under that siege of, I wouldn't want to use the term I earlier on used, where we were almost being in a government that has got no rule of law in place. Those are the things that happened. We cannot justify that, though it happened because of the fact that he was in office, it was right. It can't be right when it is wrong. Why do you need to be having 28 guns in your house?
That's a good question.
All right, okay.
Why 28 guns?
You know, it's not been established if they were yet. This is allegation. So for me, at least, from
30 police officers
from a point
one
of clarity, it has not yet been established. But I wanted just to come to the issue of police brutality on this, because it seems, yes, we are talking about Raila being the face of this demonstration. He was down in the flu, and still
he was in the
demonstrations continued apace. Well, he is the one who claims he was actually down in the flu. Farah Malim, are you looking at, first of all, if we may just follow this case of Uhuru Kenyatta, we had a police security car that had a foreign registration. This is a Sudanese foreign registration. We had the police in plain clothes. We cannot establish if they were police or not. We have him talking about the Bondo police station being raided with, personnel that had a police fatigue. There is confusion on the plain clothes that we have in the crowds. The raiding of now police with all the fatigue of a police at that particular police station. This particular plain clothes police going to Uhuru Kenyatta's son, or going after Uhuru Kenyatta's son. When we have this mix of confusion on who is wearing the police fatigue or who is in the plain clothes and they claim to be police, are we now having a spawning ground for an anarchy because we don't know who is holding a gun? First of all, do you actually agree with the brutality that has been ongoing so far with the maiming? How many lives have we lost? Almost 20 lives so far. This is the issue I think we're not also discussing on this table. We are just focusing on navel-gazing on the demonstrations and not the brutality of the police.
Yeah, there are two things that we have to take stock of. To begin with, I did not say I want to see an autocratic rule here. I didn't say that. But I said, instead of having a failed state, people don't, what
it is better.
You don't selectively pick on things. If you have a failed center, then you're going to have warlords. Then you're going to have militias, private militias, and all sorts of things. And you will have a nation like the way Somalia was in the initial days. The way Rwanda was in the initial days, when almost 1 million people were massacred. God forbid we should never push for a failed state. And the state has got to have the monopoly of firepower. And you know, sometimes it's important for us to understand these things in many contexts. You don't just look at your position and your situation on that material type. Look at it for posterity. Tomorrow you'll be in the government. Would you want a situation similar to this? Would you want the opposition to behave towards you in a similar fashion? Would you want yourself, when you're in the opposition, to be treated the way you're treating the opposition? You see, you have to look at all these things within that wider context. One thing I have a problem with is I was hearing how 2 policemen were killed. Is it in Kisumu?
Yes.
2 policemen were killed. By the way, the death of law enforcement officers in any jurisdiction is a very serious matter. Very, very serious matter. And what I know myself is that when those kind of things happen, the policemen will all assume, each one of them will assume that I am a target too. And there is no question about the fact that they are going to come up there with a disproportionate force. Disproportionate force. And we've seen that. We've seen it ourselves in our own context, where the police and the military carried out collective punishment, all because of the fear that you don't know the person who is approaching you, who he is, whether he's going to shoot you the next moment and you're dead, or whether it's somebody who's going to come and give you volunteer very good information. So there are a lot of things that will come into play. So the context must also be determined. Personally, if I have guns in my house and the police come and investigate it, why would I make an issue about it? If my son, I have sons who are grown-ups and daughters who are grown-ups. If they have guns in their own houses and they have acquired these things because they applied for these things and they were licensed to have that, and the firearms department would want to come and examine and see if these firearms have been fired from, they're carrying out any investigation. There are a lot of investigations that they carry out. They must have had certain information that is brought to them. They don't share that information with everybody. When the police are given information, they go and investigate that. And they come to my house. Why would I want to come there and say, why is my son being investigated? No. I'll tell them, welcome, open up the door for them, bring out these things, these are the licenses, these are the licenses, these are the licenses, and show how clean you are. But for you to come out there and tell the government of the day, doesn't matter whether you are a former president or you've been there for the longest, and you are no longer in office, and you tell them, you want to come for me, you come for me. It's the wrong message. It means you assume that you are a law unto yourself, and you assume that you can check on the government of the day. I mean, where does that kind of very, misplaced bravado come from? The point is, what he one time said, if you think I have committed any offense, come and take me to court and prove me in a court of law that I have committed these things. But to tell them, who are you? How do you talk to such people? You want to come for me? You come for me. I'm not scared of you. Those are the wrong approaches. Now, what I want to tell you and Kenyans and everybody who's here is that, look, this country is bigger than Uhuru Kenyatta, it's bigger than William Ruto, it's bigger than Raila Odinga, it's bigger than anybody who is there in the fray. Let us look at these things within the context of how we would want this country to be run. What are the mandates, the systems that are in place? What are the authorities and the mandates that are drawn from that system? How long is that supposed to be there? You're given 5 years, we wait for you after 5 years and we throw you out. If you don't, we try it. You see what I mean? The other bit is that Onyanka was talking about the gaps in the constitution. Yes, but there's a process. I was one person who was pushing for a parliamentary system at the time. But let me tell you one thing. When you think that you're going to be the next president, you don't want to go for a parliamentary system. That parliamentary system, presidential system, would not have been in place if we, in those days in ODM, did not assent to it. There was a problem within ODM. We already had an issue with the Rift Valley, Kalenjin Rift Valley, and the rest of the others, and of course with Raila, on the issues of the Mao forest and how we handled those many couple of hundreds of Kalenjin youths who are in prison and who they felt, given the fact that now he's a prime minister, instead of standing up to the people who fought for him, who forced this coalition government, he abandoned them as was seeking new friends now in other parts of the world, including in the country, including being enthroned as a leader.
Thank you.
So let me just finish. As a traditional leader in mountain region, you know what I mean? Those who are there. I was one of those guys who told him, look, you're committing a political suicide. First of all, deal with the issues that you have. And anyway, for whatever it is worth, that is how people like even Ruto went on to the other side. So what I'm trying to tell you, and the fact that you think that you're now in a situation in which you're going to have absolute power, so why should you share power? Because parliamentary system is basically where you share power, and you can be thrown out anytime by parliament itself. But then when you're not in office, it's fair to say, now let's go for parliamentary system. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Now, do you think somebody who's in government and is having the kind of powers that Ruto has will accept for us to go for a parliamentary system now? Always a system which you fight for should come into force.
Thank you, Farah.
After the life of that
Thank you, Farah.
parliament.
Thank you.
You understand?
Thank you. We'll come.
So we want to change things.
Let's
Let's change it for the better, and let's do it in a bipartisan manner. And I can assure you, it will not come into force in 2027.
Right.
Because this guy will want to come back again for another 5 years.
Richard Onyonka,
thank
you. We have Farah raising the question of Uhuru Kenyatta, chest thumping against the state as it is, and asking the state to come for him. And maybe you will raise a hesitation yourself if your own home was sort of, raided without a warrant of arrest or warrant of search, so to speak.
Did you ask him to produce a warrant of search?
Just a moment, because warrant of search from the police, and you have people purporting to be police officers who you are also doubtful of their registration, because ideally should come with a government a plated vehicle, so that you can identify yourself. You even in plain clothes. How do you establish if you're police officers or not in the first place? Shouldn't you also, as the owner of that house, be concerned and raise these questions that are very germane that President Uhuru Kenyatta is raising? From your own assessment, what would you have done?
I think the way Senator has said that he wanted to make an argument once he sets up a preamble. The preamble here is that you realize there's a disagreement which was either personal or political between President Ruto and Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. Number two, we are a country that has, Honorable Farah, for the last 60 years, a very interesting development is taking place. And that is why I worry, Dibal. I really, really worry, because this is the first time that we are having a sitting president who is publicly expressing how he actually has disagreed with the former president, where a former president comes and on national TV, even if you were to look, and these are some of the things that in the US, for example, that the Attorney General and even the Special Counsel who are taking Trump to court, they have been questioning and looking at the issue and saying, how much leeway do we have for us to literally go and take this guy to court and make sure we have enough evidence, if need be, to make sure we convict. The issue that is happening, Honorable Farah, right now is worrisome to me. Worrisome, and again, I don't want to sound like I'm naive. It's worrisome from both sides. Mm-hmm. I am hearing war drums. I'm hearing voices which have been overwhelmed by the argument that the government needs to be more harsher, mm-hmm. The government needs to use excessive force, the government needs to use live bullets, people are dying. Then a former president comes on TV and is speaking to the nation. And the truth is that was not a good picture. Mm-hmm. If you look at our country right now, and that is the point I keep talking about, our country is sick with itself. And I would hope, and indeed, my brothers who are here, and these are my colleagues, we've worked with Farah, worked with my father, he's worked with me. I really believe that even when these challenges and these issues are coming up and we rationalize them, I can rationalize the Azimio position on anything and I'll succeed. And KK Alliance can rationalize the argument they have on the unconstitutionality and the inability of Raila and his team not accepting the reality that, in fact, Raila lost the elections and therefore we have moved on. The argument I'm making is that sometimes politics is never like that. Sometimes countries don't move on. Sometimes countries require leadership that is going to sit down and even from a distance with quiet diplomacy and say, look, this we can leave. There are some things we shouldn't deal with, but this we can push. That is what a democracy was never a winner takes it all outfit. It's not. Even the way you treat the people who lost elections against you is so important. And I've noticed, Dibal, every time, Senator, I've run for elections and I won, the behavior I had on how I engage the people who lost against me and my respect of them and having told them that I actually value the fact that they were in the race. That's why I worked so hard. I believe that we in Azimio have now accepted the fact that President William Ruto is the president. We have agreed that he should govern, but there are certain challenges we are having with his administration.
Not all of you have agreed.
No. At least some of us have
Probably Senator Onyonka has.
No. Senator, you are my brother. I want to tell you this.
So what's the demonstration about?
The demonstrations are about certain inalienable issues that Kenyan people, if, Honorable Farah Maalim, if today Raila announced that let us have elections like we did on Wednesday and people didn't come, for me, I think that's good enough. That's good enough. His point has been made already. And this is the discussion I want us to have. I would want the government to say, we have understood the issues you've raised and we are actually facing them and we are willing to discuss those issues if this is what we are going to do. We are not naive to think that we are going to tell President William Ruto to change his budget because it is a bad budget. We are hoping that we are allowing due process to continue. And I know the complexity of where we are today, but I would wish that we were more merciful. And I've said this before somewhere. I hope and I wish that we were more merciful to our country, even with our contradictions, that we will be able to guide the country, allow the KK Alliance government to continue with what they are doing if they believe that is good enough for governing the country. And I also believe we on our side in Azimio need to understand that KK Alliance is in government, they were voted for. Whether we agreed with those results or didn't agree, it is now a foregone conclusion and we must move on. And that is the point I'm making, that let us not put fires onto the already toxic political environment and the already toxic,
right?
And we are mistrusting. We are mistrusting each other so much.
I wanted to say this. Senator Onyonka is a very good friend of mine, and we've been in Parliament before and have high respect for him. We got sworn in Nairobi the same day. We went through all this as senators. I never had you or any other senator for that matter that we have lost this bill or we have lost this motion or we have, let's go to the streets for demonstration. Because you are senators. You know the rules of the game. I never had, even in the National Assembly, any one person talk about demonstrations. That because they have lost a bill, let's go out there and throw stones. Because we know the rule of the games. But there is somebody, that's why we cannot escape the fact that the leader of opposition out there is refusing to operate within the structures. And this is where the problem is. Now, when President Ruto the other day wrote to the Speaker of Parliament and the other Speaker of Parliament to say, let us create the position of leader of opposition and make provision for him so that he can be talking or she can be talking, not just for me, but for everyone. Some of us said, it's not enough for him to talk for himself. Even governors, those who come number 2, should be given special seats within the assembly so that they can also raise issues within the counties. And that matter became complicated because the same opposition people came and said, no, this is unconstitutional, I don't know what, so the thing has remained there hanging. Now, anytime that one person creates an issue outside the way things must happen, and then everybody jumps on it because, this guy has support on the ground. And some of these members of parliament just got elected because they are in his party. So when he stands there and says, let's go out and throw stones, they all have to fall in line. But it's not the same with many of the other political leaders in that camp. That's why they will never call for stone throwing in demonstrations, because they don't have that control on their electorate.
Right.
But let me finish my point. So they don't call for extra constitutional measures to solve the problems that we have. So we are not saying that there are no issues in the country. The country has issues. But my issue is we are not following the agreed structures that we said. You see, headlines that say let Raila and Ruto sit. People, when they come, they are just working on something that is in their heads. It was done before, so it should be done again. We have simply spoiled the man. He used pressure of violence to get into Moi government. He used pressure of violence to get into Kibaki government. He used pressure of violence to get into Uhuru government. We have spoiled the man. Now he's doing the same thing to get into Ruto's government. We are saying there's got to be a cutoff. You want to do things, let's do them constitutionally. We want to make changes, even constitutional change. The same constitution has a way of providing for changes within the constitution. I feel it is so, when I see some of those very reasonable people now saying, why are police killing people? And then other people answer, why are people killing the police? Why are shops being looted? Other people are saying, why is there excessive force? They are not asking who called for these demonstrations. They are not asking. It's like everyone is jumping on the bandwagon. And ambassadors, like somebody in the UN who says, we are interfering with peaceful demonstration. He's obviously in New York. He's not seen what is happening. Even if Honorable Onyonka today was president, you would not agree that people's shops are being looted, guys are losing lives.
Thank you.
And then you still say that, okay, let everything go. There will be no state.
I wanted just to ask for a follow-through question, especially when you're saying, we should agitate within the structures that are given. If it's in the Senate, of course, we'll raise bill and we'll debate that. But you may remember as well that even in Senate, it failed on the issue of exchequer trying to disburse the monies to the counties. We had governors on the streets. Didn't we have governors demonstrating?
You are right about one thing.
They were demonstrating.
No, you are right about one thing. There were arguments about should we have this amount of money or this amount of money, right? In the Senate, arguments were made.
They didn't really pass muster.
No, it was very, very serious arguments were made on both sides. Some, on my side, I said we must do what is available. We can't serve what is not there. They said, no, it is there. We must serve it. We must have it now. It's okay. But that's the way it is. We have we did the voting. They voted against, voted for it. We passed it. So those are the rules of the game.
But the question is, wasn't
Dipal, next time, get more senators so that you can defeat the people there. You can have your policy working. Next time, get more MPs so that you can pass your laws. You can't agree to the rules of the game in the football match. We say that when you kick the ball and it enters that goal, that's a score. And then somewhere in the middle, you say, no, when you take it outside on the sidelines, that's a goal also. We can't change the rules in the middle of the thing. If we want to change the rules, let's sit now and discuss the new constitution as it should look like. But this is wrong. What they are doing is wrong. And that is what annoys me. And it is very, very it is very bad for even lawyers to be jumping in a bandwagon towards violence and destruction of the nation.
Right, but there's nothing out of demonstrations. What I'm saying is, even the governors themselves, they took that particular avenue to demonstrate against their frustrations of the exchequer not really dispersing their monies, and they were demonstrating heading to the courts. Can you remember that? Yeah,
but
that's what I'm saying.
The difference between that which was done by the governors and what we're experiencing right now is like day and night. These were people who said this is the position that we had agitated for. There was no violence, there was nothing closer to what we are experiencing at the moment. And that is why we've all along said none of any leader in this current government is opposed to the public exercising their right under Article 37 or any other law. Nobody has ever been denied that right. If they really needed to submit any petition, even an individual can do that. Have we seen any petition right now?
No.
Have we seen anybody with a memorandum
Nothing.
on the issues they would love the government to deal with? Nothing. It's all about destructive demonstrations, and that's why we're saying let the rest of the Kenyans exercise that right. Even those who really would want to do it within this team here, let them do it, but peaceful. Because even as we have issues which at any given time we would want the government to deal with. But if we were to express them in a very peaceful manner, that is within the law, and we will submit them, whether in form of a petition or picketing or anything. But that is not what we are experiencing. I had an experience on Friday. I was coming from Nandi Hills. We'd gone to Tindiret constituency on a fact-finding mission on a petition that has been filed before the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee of the Senate in a fact-finding mission on the family of the late Jean Marie Seronai, former Deputy Speaker and Member of Parliament for Tindiret constituency. On my way back, I came by road, and the experience I had, Dibal, when I got to Chemelil, Mohoroni, was not good. It was in demonstration. Youth had barricaded the roads, they were burning tires and they were burning the road section there. And I had to buy my way out. The distinction between what I experienced in Nandi Hills and what I experienced when I got to Chemelil and Mohoroni are on two different walls. The other side, people have walked, they've planted maize, they are expecting some bumper harvest in the next 2 months. This other side, which is supposed to be a sugar growing zone, guys are on the road. And these are the same people who would want to tell us the cost of living is very high. What have you done to bring down? And that is why when we talk about what Senator Onyonga said, we all want to agree that a certain team lost and a team won. Let's allow them to govern, and that is exactly what they are doing.
Thank you.
We want to acknowledge that fact, but let us allow them to do the right thing that they are doing so that they bring down the cost of living. They also now have a conversation on other issues affecting this country. We are not saying that it is rosy. It's not rosy. And we all aware it's not Kenya alone, it's the whole world.
Right,
but then are we giving the government the opportunity to govern and tell the public, in fact, what things they are doing to bring down the cost of living, to sustain the democratic space that we all aspire to have, and to allow the opposition to do their job? We are not.
Thank you. Can I, Richard Onyoka, then to you, Farah?
Because
just briefly,
I'm the only Azimio.
By the way, with all due respect, because Farah need also to declare.
Fine, yes.
No, you need to declare, Farah.
Look,
you need to declare where because for the interest of just a moment, for the interest of balancing this panel, because when I call Farah, just a moment, because when I call you Farah, I am riding on the assumption that you're on Azimio.
Yes.
But when we get on the desk as well, your sentiment seems to be gravitating towards it. Which is okay.
No, it's not okay. Let me explain to you why it's okay.
Can you finish? You wanted just to get a rejoinder, then we'll give you time. Because I know maybe you have history that now we want to withdraw from the archive.
I just want to say two statements on that issue. I have been guided by my own principles and my patriotism to this country from day one until today. I have never been anybody's sycophant. You get my point? I have never been. I supported Raila Odinga, but I also say all the time his weaknesses. I didn't support Ruto in the last elections. And you know how many votes Ruto got in my constituency in the last elections? 508. 508. Do you know how many votes Raila got in my constituency? 23,000. At my own cost, he did not contribute 10 cents into that. And I campaigned for him. We lost the election, we've lost the election, let's move on and get the issues. Now, a certain quarter within the Azimio is seeking personal relevance, personal benefits, personal checks and everything else. Now, that has been what has bedeviled this country for the longest. And I was part of this country's transformation and politics for the last 30 years. Every time we were trying to get things right, there was somebody who was making a personal benefit and we lose out at the last minute. And this has happened many times. Mungatana was just talking about it right now. We were fighting in 1997 for change in this country. What do we have? The merger. We were fighting again in 2002 to get a serious opposition unity based on principles, based on proper electoral things, based on the interests of this he stands up there and says, Kibaki metosha, and that becomes the end of the road. We went again 2007, and we came in there, and the last minute, I had actually proposed myself, let us have a caretaker government for 1 year. Let's get the right elections in here, because he won in that elections. He won.
All right, thank you.
But let me just finish. But then what happened? What did happen that time again? They went and negotiated, and it became political entrepreneurship. I was the deputy speaker then. Then later on, of course, it's one time with Moi, the merger is the other, or cooperation before that, by the way. Cooperation. And I remember the late Jeremy, and I disagreed with him that time. Cooperation, merger, the NAC thing, that failed again, a flat face within the shortest possible time. And 2007, a coalition government. I said, let's not go for a coalition government. Let's go for what you call a caretaker government and have a proper elections and let the winner take this thing. No. People wanted cash immediately in their pockets. And then basically, that's how we lost out. And then we come again for 2013. 2013, we won. Raila won the elections in 2013. He won in 2017. I know it, both of them. And all we basically needed to do is to say, we're not going to... We had already created a Supreme Court, what do you call a scenario in the 2010 election, what do you call things? The Constitution. We got, what do you call the courts to do what they did in 2013. William Mutunga and the rest of them and everybody else, we were not happy with that decision. You see what I mean?
Yeah, from the elections.
We were not happy with that decision, and look at exactly what people said about William Mutunga, who today is supposed to be with us in the opposition. My good friend, an honest guy, very honest guy. But find out what we said, what our own leadership said about Willie that time. 2017, we got what you call, this was the time when it was completely and overturned. We're going to go for elections again. Yes. We're going to insist on we're not going to go for elections until A, B, C, D is put in place. We never did that, and we never went for elections again. Have you ever asked yourself why? We never asked for anything. We never insisted on anything. We just sat there and said we're not going for elections. Nobody knows what happened. And then we have a handshake within a year again. By 2018, we have a handshake. What does that tell you? That something was already negotiated behind the scenes. Look, you will be part of these things. You will have your own thing. And then now, after I have done all that things I did, I broke my back and we lost the elections. We went to the courts. We lost in the courts. And I'm saying, let us allow them these 5 years. Let us take stock. Let us insist on a fair, free, and a verifiable electoral system in which we can watch on the screen as the elections, the votes are being cast. Have you seen in the US? 480,000, 80 million people population. And still you can watch it. By the time you reach at around, you already know who's going to win and who's going to lose. Before the end of the day, it's already determined. We were going to push for that. What are we pushing for right now? We say, let's go out into the streets. To do what?
Right.
Thank you,
Farah.
Hang on. To completely agitate on the issues that were there, which yesterday you were saying the cost of living is high because Ukraine is there. So who are we? What kind of a nation is this nation?
Okay, let's say from Onyonka. Who are we? Good question.
I completely agree with Honorable Farah on what he is saying and the classification and explanation on who Raila is. But I also want to tell Honorable Farah, as I said, a man I highly respect, is that to me, Raila is a consequence of Kenyan socio-political engagement.
Absolutely.
Raila is a product of a country which we have today, where even if we are talking about allegations about personal gratification, financial, whatever it is, Dibal, the reality of our country's political establishment is that it is very easy to judge it with hindsight. Mm-hmm. It is very easy today for me to sit here from 1982 when I knew who Raila was until now, and I could put 300 things which are wrong with him. But I can also stand up and say the same Raila that we would want, and it's not easy. I completely understand what Honorable Farah is saying, is that as much as we keep looking at our politics and engaging it from the perspective that, like me and him, I've been in the opposition all my life in this parliament and now in the Senate. And yet I've watched how everything plays out. I mean, today, if you were to look at the issue of Kibaki Tosha, and you discuss both sides, because for us in Kisii, the candidate at that time was Mzee Nyachai. You listen to the other side, they'll tell you no. When we looked at all the issues, and if I allow him, it would take maybe 3 days to explain the political power play that happened. If you look at somebody discussing, yes, we've had the issues that in fact there was money which exchanged hands. I'm really pushing my conversation here during the handshake and everything. But the reality is, if you listen to what some people are discussing in terms of how did Raila engage himself onto the handshake, was yes, there could have been that personalized engagement with him, or either I think you've had Honorable Miguna and other people talk about he must have been given money or something. I just want to tell you this. There are some of us who have looked at that issue and said, what is it that was happening at that time that made it possible for Raila to make that decision, given the circumstances where we were? And what have been the repercussions of that arrangement? Mm-hmm. The other point I wanted to raise is very simple. Honorable Farah, I actually don't think that in Kenya we have really internalized and understood what is this thing that we carry that is called democracy. Mm-hmm. People still believe that democracy is when you take everything, is when you reward your friends, is when you manage to take projects to your home area. And these are the issues we should be talking about now. And yet where we are today, our country and all of us on this table, I hope we agree, our country has certain issues which are outstanding. They may not be many. All right, I can comfortably speak on this table if indeed my colleagues feel that this, because they have the majority at the National Assembly and they have the majority at the Senate, let them also go and stop these demonstrations constitutionally, so that we accept that we know in Kenya you can't demonstrate. And I want somebody to explain to me why the drafters of the Constitution felt that it was necessary for people to conduct a demonstration. There have been deaths which have taken place. When the demonstrations first started, Maseno University, and purely by coincidence, 2 of the students who died were from Kisii. Got buried, nobody has ever thought anything about it. If you look at the deaths which have taken place, my brother Dibal, look at the number of people who've been killed, and there is no justification whatsoever of anybody being killed. The police have died, the public, members of the public. I mean, you look at some of the wounds. I saw the other day when somebody had been shot and his jaw was dropping and you see blood all over. All right? My argument is simple. We as Kenyans, and especially the ruling elite, we can handle this better. We can discuss amongst us. I hear completely with Honorable Mungatana is talking about. I listen to my brother here talk about what are the missteps and the mistakes that Raila has made. But I also want to say that we are also aware of the major significance that Raila has played in our country in making sure that this country keeps moving on. And my argument and my request to Kenyans and indeed my colleagues here is we can handle ourselves a bit better from the opposition. And I think the government for now needs to reduce the vitriol, the statements which are coming. I mean, you listen to all those statements. The president talks, the deputy president, some of his members of the party in UDA. I think we can deliberately tone down, we can deliberately raise, so that even some of us who may want to actually sit down and persuade Mzee Raila that, Mzee, I think now, if it is a point, we have got it. Can we agree on an exit strategy so that then we can engage with the government and handle with the structures that exist which are constitutional and make sure that we achieve results which make Kenya a better place. For me, and I've said this up to 100 times, Honorable Mugatana, we don't want handshake. No. If Raila...
You don't want.
Well, hold on.
People?
Let me tell you, if Raila signs handshake,
want.
I will walk away from him.
What do you want?
What you don't want. But I can tell you, Honorable Onyonka, and with a lot of respect to you,
What do you want?
it is obvious. How do you start demonstration? You say it is because the servers are not open. Then when that is not flying, you change. You say, oh, because the high cost of living. And a few months ago, you were talking about there's no high cost of living, what one abweka. And then you hold on to this, you use it, you know that you will throw violence, the actual card that he uses. Then people will die. Then houses will burn. Then there will be chaos. And then government will be worried. And then you will want them to come on the table. You know, reasonable people like you, I wish, Mheshimiwa, you are the leaders in that opposition. You are the ones who are calling the shots. Because today you are saying, I want to talk the issues. But this person, that issue of high cost, a few months ago he was talking about it. Now he's talking about it. That means today if he's called, he's told, no, achana hiyo kuja ukue prime minister. He will walk away from you.
No.
You will walk away. No, that's what I'm saying. There's a problem in leadership on the opposition.
No.
Some of you are there on principle. You are saying, oh, these things must be addressed and what and what. Other people are not doing that. And I dare tell you, history repeats itself.
Okay.
It will not be, even if these things go for discussions, it will not be about high cost of living or anything. It will be about accommodating people. And you know it. You will be annoyed. You know, have you seen Ledama Olekinda nowadays, where he is? He's not talking, he's gone to his village. Why?
No, but all of us,
it's because of what is happening.
No, you can't.
People have started.
Why are you holding brief for him?
Let me not talk about it. But I'm just saying, some leaders have started seeing there's a problem somewhere. These people are talking like this, today they are talking like this, and if they are offered something, I'm just dying here for nothing.
That is where we disagree.
So my prayer is this
issue of being offered something. I think you keep on. That is
All right,
the narrative
but
I've
maybe the better question we should be asking.
Money out of
it
this?
is,
Yes.
No, what's your money? Even position.
Okay.
No.
Even
Nobody
position.
wants those positions.
I
know the story last week was KK was talking to Kalonzo.
Let me tell you.
Raila this. Those things
You don't want.
Don't want to hear.
Yeah, you don't want. And I honestly believe some leaders in opposition, whom I highly respect, like yourself, are actually interested in genuine dialogue. But I can tell you, to your disappointment, that the top leadership is not interested. I can tell you, because, and I'm basing on facts,
The top leadership being
Raila Odinga. The history has repeated itself many times. That's why we can see where it is going. It is not about high cost of living. It's not about electoral justice. It's not about anything. It's about being accommodated. And some of you are going to be disappointed.
No, just a moment. But where we are at right now as a country, on a precipice, hurtling down over the cliff, you are raising the question of, we do not want any handshake. We've seen this happening before. It's a trend that has been set. Then what will be the wisest of fashion to solve this if it's not dialogue?
No, let me tell you.
From your own assessment?
No, from my own assessment, there are very many constitutional avenues that exist. Number one,
you've raised Parliament.
Number one,
you've exhausted
number
that.
one, Parliament is there. You see, Parliament is there. Political parties, the Azimio and whatever, can sit, and the other formation.
But we've seen how Parliament as it is. Now it's become a rubber stamp because of numerical strength as it is.
No, listen to me. They were called for the bipartisan, they called for it, and we said, let's have the discussion. Then they walk away. So you can see that it's a game. It's
No,
a
no,
game.
no, no,
Have
no.
you interrogated
Senator-
why they walked away?
Senator Mungatana,
There were reasons why they walked
Senator
away.
Mungatana,
Yeah.
you are assuming and making an assumption that what you have represented is actually what happened. You remember when our Shakahola committee started?
Yeah.
It started with your committee, you as chairman,
Yeah.
but there was a commission, there's a team that the president had already appointed,
Yeah.
and
The courts
finally the courts
nullified that particular team.
even when you may be thinking that, according to you, that this is a trajectory arrangement where whatever that Raila wants is what is going to happen, it could be true. That could be 100% true. But what I'm actually saying is that I would want statesmen like you and all of us on this table to be the ones who say, yes, we know what the history is, and can we try and figure out how we can fix the mess we are in? Because we are in a mess. I'm really pleading with all of us here. I have reached a stage, Honorable Mugatana, that I'm not in a judgmental mode these days in my politics. Why? Because if we started looking at the histories of all of our political leaders, including Honorable William Ruto, you could get 1,000 criticisms of him, the history of him and all that. But this is where we are. And I believe that for those whom responsibility has been given, much is expected. We must be able to see if this is the trap. Let's assume it's a trap that Raila has set up. Then we can't gaslight it. Then we can't say, if he wants to go and commit suicide with the country, let him do. What we are saying is, we can actually then, if you assume that is what he's doing, look for several ways, many ways, quiet diplomacy, whatever it takes, and pull him back to the center and say, we think, Honorable Prime Minister, we need to go in this direction. But when you have so many people, when you have, the issue is raised about Chemelil, the truth is a lot of people were killed in Sondu. And these were transactions between the Luo community and the Kalenjin community. These are people who have lived together for years and years. But you know, every time there was an issue within that region, particularly Raila's election, even when it was a time when Raila had actually won those elections and we were all on the same side, we still were being killed. All right? And we were not here. So these are the contradictions that we've actually looked at. And for me, I'm saying, we can't give up yet. That there must be wise old men and women like yourselves who actually must be able to say, is there another route we could take on this matter to try and stabilize the country and move on? And I saw a write-up that Ndi did about 3 months ago. He said President Kibaki did 1, 2, 3. Item number 2 was actually about political stabilization and all that stuff. My argument is, we don't want handshake. Let us agree on what the basics are. If we take 5 items, let's agree. And you guys can actually be the ones who are engaging those of us. If you believe that many of us may not want to do may not want to chart a different path, no. I am as independent as Honorable Farah is. I'm as independent as you are, because I've seen sometimes you take positions which are not pro-government. I want to say that we, as the leadership that our country deserves now, we can't keep on putting fuel onto this fire and
Thank you.
on.
Right.
Thank you.
Right. Let's hear from Honorable Hilary Sigei, because we have also Alfred Mutua, and we've had the president speaking about the image.
I was basically answering his question in the first place, so you haven't come to me substantively.
Let's hear from Sigei first. Then we'll come to you. Right? He says the demos will not impair Kenya's image.
Yes.
We've heard the president really talking about also our image there on the clip, that it's being impaired. So they're not speaking from the same, mouthpiece.
No. You see, what the president is saying is telling the people, look, let us not wash our dirty linen in public. If there are issues, let's deal with them in-house. The way I've listened to Honorable Nyonka, and if all Kenyans, and in this particular context, all leaders were to speak like him, we would be somewhere, we would be dealing with issues in a round table. But the unfortunate thing is that what Onyonka is saying is not the same that the leader of opposition is saying. He's completely independent as he says.
But what is the opposition of what is the
the
opposition leader Raila Odinga saying? Because we don't seem to know what then he's saying.
That's what he's
No,
saying.
yeah. Well, if they go to the
He's
street,
saying
they're
let's go to
saying
the
the cost of
streets.
living. It's
He's
not really
saying-
about all these objects that you're actually
But
putting
we've
on the
said,
table regarding.
time without number, Debal, that this is not about the cost of living. This is not about the economic crisis of the country.
So
It's
what
not
is,
about
what is the
it's
symbolism of
about-
sufuria on the head all about?
Now,
What is the symbolism of
the
the sufuria?
symbolism of the sufurias in the head is just to create
Drama.
yes, drama and make it, it loses meaning. It has lost meaning. When we began this conversation, everybody agreed that it's true. We are struggling as Kenya in terms of our economic condition, as just the rest of the world is. But the unfortunate thing is that we lost it because somebody decided to take it up. And that is why we are no longer talking about the issues that Raila had in his list of 8 items. He's forgotten about them. Remember, he spoke about the servers. He spoke about the IEBC. He spoke about the audit of the electoral system. When he began these demos, those are among the things that he said. Midway, he realized that everybody was talking about the cost of living, and he jumped into it. You haven't heard him for the last 3 or 4 weeks talking about anything to do with IEBC and the rest. He has jumped onto the cost of living and the Finance Act because he felt that is where everyone else would be keen interested in following. But what I'm saying is that if we were then to indeed speak about those issues, the way Nyonga said, we would be somewhere else. If we were to say, let us come to the table and deal with the cost of living, we would all agree that it is not going to happen in a day. In one morning, we sit, in the evening, we have brought down the cost of it. Can't happen. What are the things that we can do? Let's put down these modalities. Let us come together as leaders. Let us appreciate the fact that if we want to assist Kenya, we do not borrow beyond where we had reached. Let us see how we can finance our demands as a country without borrowing. That is the conversation that the president said. Let us not borrow to pay salaries. Let us stop borrowing. Let us enhance the tax bracket so that we can self-sustain. That is the conversation that failed. Why? Because people decided this is not going to be popular. The popular theme is the cost of living is high, let us go to the streets. We are not helping ourselves. And that is why the president is trying to say, let us have this conversation, let's go out there with the people. In fact, what the media is carrying out is that the president is now going out to a whole country conversation, not because of anything. According to them, it is because he is now going back to politics. But that's not the case. He's saying, if Kenyans would understand that by saying, let us enhance our tax bracket, we stop borrowing, we will get out of this situation that we are in now in the near future. And that is why it can't happen within a day, it can't happen tomorrow. When he pushed the other day for Gavam Mkononi, the launching of e-citizen platform where over 5,000 government services are in one platform, it is one way of bringing down the cost of living. I wouldn't have to have somebody from Chebunyo in Bomet County, Chepalugu constituency, coming all the way to Nairobi when he or she needs some certain services, including, for example, passport. That way, we are bringing down the cost of living, but in a structured manner. It can't happen in a day, in a fortnight.
Thank you.
The fight on corruption, the cleanup of KEMSA, the cleanup of NHIF is another way of saying, if there are little resources, let us help those who are in those offices to serve the people of Kenya, to make proper use of the monies that are there. And if it's about availing drugs through, that's the sort of conversation that he's dealing with, but we are diverting it by the demos.
Thank you.
When he says we want to reform agriculture, this is one of the things that I don't want to forget, and allow me to say this. Remember, he's assigned the deputy president the role of doing this sector, the agriculture sector. We are done with the coffee reforms. We are done with the tea. Not we are done. We are actually ongoing. We've done conferences. The last conference we had on this sector is in Kericho, where we had all tea growers, including my brothers from Nyamira and Kisii, where this is directly touching on the farmer who is down in the ground. If today we were able to say we have completely gotten rid of the cartels in the coffee and tea sector, The direct beneficiary is the farmer.
Thank you.
If we are able to, the conversation we were having as senators the other day, that chiefs and agrovets from within our jurisdictions to supply the free fertilizer, which, by the way, by next month will not be selling at 3,500. It will be selling at 2,500.
Thank you.
That is the way we can bring down the cost of living. And I agree with Onyonka when he says that reach out to those of us who want to be very objective. The unfortunate thing is the team that calls the shots are not interested in what he's saying.
All right, let's
they
hear from...
are selfish and they desire to have...
Let's hear from Farah. Farah, first of all, we have information that also Uhuru Kenyatta, not Uhuru Kenyatta, but President William Ruto is planning to, increase the car import levy. And also, if perchance this Finance Act does not go the government's way, there are other channels of introducing the VAT as well. That is what we are learning as well. But from your own assessment, where we are, to you as a businessman, we can uncouple you from the politician. Are you happy with the taxation?
A government is like a corporation. As a businessman and somebody who has a master's in business, a government
with the stakeholders
is a stakeholder in this thing. A government is like a corporation. When a corporation hits rough waters and is not able to service its own debts and their problems, there are two ways to go about it. In the US, they file for Chapter 11. They call it Chapter 11 in the US. Bankruptcy. Yeah. In here, we don't have that. In here, you have two ways. Either the company gets auctioned, and people come and pick it for peanuts, for very little, and sometimes just by undertaking to pay the loans that were there, outstanding loans that were there. Or the other option that you have is that you ask the shareholders to pump in more money into the company. You change the management. You load off some of the non-profit making divisions in there. You confine yourself essentially to a very progressive and aggressive both production and marketing and the rest of it. And then progressively, you keep on making less losses until you finally break even. Once you break even, then you proceed now and start making profits. After a while, you would have already paid off all your debts, and you begin now declaring dividends for the people. A government is exactly the same thing. This government is bankrupt. It's insolvent. So what do? There are two ways to go about these things. We will proceed on with the way we were. We fail to service our debts and loans. We get relegated, and as far as the ratings is concerned in the international financial markets, we become a risky what do you call a debtor.
We've already taken a blow there.
Just a moment. We become a risky debtor in there, and in the process, then of course, when you have to go and access money, you now go into the sharks, the Shylocks in the international markets. Mm-hmm. Then they will ask for a hand and a leg for you. Then your economy goes down. Your shilling loses against all the other international, currencies. There's a capital flight. People will begin now taking off with their money because this is a bad country to have an investment in. And then you become another one of those other countries until eventually you're, like Greece and others. The other option is that you go back to the shareholders and ask them to pump in. Who are the shareholders in the case of the government now? It's the people, the masses. The government has no money of its own. It has no resources. The resources are taxes that it levies on the people. So you levy more taxes, you pay off your debts, you go on an aggressive infrastructural development so that you can create more opportunities in the country and create employment and all that, so that progressively you keep on paying off your debts until you've paid off all the debts. And just like a company, you have a lot of reserves, you know what I mean, serious reserves. And that way, your shilling your currency is strong. The economy is bigger, there's more imports, and your products are finding their way into markets outside, whether it's agricultural products or the industrial products. Now, industrially, we are a powerhouse in this part of the region. But right now, our products might become too expensive to sell to the neighboring countries. Our agriculture is in tatters. It's already been destroyed.
Our shilling is losing also to the region.
Our
as
shilling
well.
is losing
It's
like
been
hell.
dismally
Our
bad.
coffee sector is gone to hell. You know what I mean? All those cash crops that are giving us, our tourism is also gone. We don't have any tourists coming in the numbers that they were used to be there. So because of wrong policies, this country was destroyed for the last 10 years by the Jubilee government. Progressively. We kept on warning that, look, things are bad. Today, the economy of Tanzania is bigger than us. Uganda is doing a lot better than us. 30 years ago, we were producing 145,000 metric tons of coffee. Today, we are producing less than 45,000. Uganda is producing 450,000.
50,000,
Yes, what do you call it, tons. And you see, basically, I was in Uganda myself just 1 week ago for a couple of days. And things are moving there. So I think in the interim, it is fair for us to levy certain taxes, but prudently used, and let there be a government that is going to tighten its own belt, go on a measure of austerity measures, go on some kind of an ambitious, what they call infrastructural development to spur and stimulate the economy. So the economy is now, will begin, it's like a shop. If it's not doing business, you bring in more goods, you bring in more what they call customers and the rest of it until the shop is able to make profits. So I think there are ways, you don't have to reinvent the wheel again. There are ways you can go about this, and I think this country needs to do that. I've been telling myself, the government, for the longest, look, there are 20 million what they call foreign workers in the Middle East. Let our government go out there and create that kind of an environment and send about 4 million, 3 million foreign workers from Kenya to go and work in those places. We have some of the best trained human resources in Africa, in the third world countries, and even in the world. Now there is what this government is trying to do, to send people to go and work in Germany, to go and work in Canada and a number of countries, without any of those hypes and the political aspects of it, and maybe sometimes giving misinformation. Let's go seriously to try and create jobs for our own youth here outside the country, because there are countries that are doing very well in their economies that are in need of foreign workers, expatriates all the time. And then they bring back the coffee sector into its all glory.
Thank you.
Make sure that the tea itself is properly done, because right now is a cartel which is captured and which are basically foreigners. And European, what they call tea houses and the rest of them. So only a little money comes in here. They have what you call, just a moment. They have what they call transfer billing. You know what I mean? Transfer billing, which means they're only able to bring back a small amount of money here and keep all the money outside there, because the whole thing, from the millers to the what they call dealers, to the brokers, to the exporters, to the importers, is the same outfit. So that way, when our coffee leaves here and our own farmers get less than 50 shillings per kilo, other people are getting 300, 400, 500 shillings per kilo in the neighboring countries.
Thank you. All right, Richard Onyonka.
Taxation.
Yeah, you'll comment still on taxation. I think he is as well.
I think Honorable Farah and my colleagues have been very clear in what they think is wrong in terms of the engagement that the opposition is supposed to have with the government. My honest analysis is that on the issue of what he has just discussed, I'll talk about the economics in just a second. I believe that, and this is purely not, I think it's by default, that when the government came and when the government was trying to express and explain the reason why we need to increase the taxes and why we need to do all that, and I think Honorable Farah has explained, Kenya doesn't have anywhere where we could actually get money, or given the circumstances in the last 10 years, we've just moved our debts from 1.8 trillion to we are now at 11 trillion.
Yeah.
The second issue, and this is where we come in as the opposition, even when the government could be having very wonderful and lofty ideas and incredible ideas and suggestions of what needs to be done, we want, as the oversight responsible organ, we as the opposition must keep on oversighting the government. I believe that we can do it respectfully and we can do it in a mature manner without necessarily screaming, throwing epithets at the government and telling the government how they're doing nothing, because after all, we are supposed to be in the government in waiting. So for me, the approach I have is that we must, without fear or favor, come up and tell the government where there are genuine mistakes which have been made, so that we can then have a country that is running, that is responsible with itself. If you look at the issues which have been having, too many of people are dying. The police are using excessive force. I would have wished that one of the directives the president would give is use rubber bullets so that you don't kill as many people. I hope that on our side, and I know our people are very responsible. If you look at the events that have taken place up to now, it is actually shocking that we've lost about the 25 people. It could have been much, much, much more. If you look at all the areas, whether it's in Kisumu, whether it's in Vihiga, whether it is in Kisii, it is the police who are shooting, and it was very, very, very hostile. Finally, Dibal, for me, maybe the last comment I want to give Kenyans on this show. Kenyans must begin to ask themselves, do we need our country to be run in such a manner that the economic development and growth and good policies that make governments run are the ones which will influence politics? Or do we want to then engage ourselves politically every 5 years that elections take place, and everybody keeps on complaining how the elections were unfair, how the elections were stolen, and Honorable Senator Sigei raised this issue. I don't know whether it was you or anyway, it could have been one of you, when you said, why is it that we senators and we governors and we MCAs actually never complain that our elections have been stolen? And yet, every 5 years, we have presidential elections. Somebody, and unfortunately or fortunately, in this case, it's Raila's case, like you heard him say, Raila has won the election twice, but it was never declared. Can we remove this aspect from our political elite? Can we remove it from our political management? Can we have good faith from the leadership to make sure that finally, like Honorable Farah said, when the elections in America are taking place, you see there is returns coming in at the ward level, you come at the county level, which there is a state. From the state, you go to the national level, which is the Senate, and then you have the presidential. In fact, those results come simultaneously. You can tell if an MCA is going to win in a certain ward. How does that influence the member of parliament or the congressman in the US winning? How does it? India has got 960 million people voting. They only have 3 commissioners. Why do we fail? Yeah. Why shouldn't we fix this? And if any of these small things, we fix them so that we know with finality. And I know my brothers on the other side say, no. The trickster here, the person who is actually taking us in the wrong direction is Raila and everything. My suggestion would be, if we are supposed to audit our electoral practices and electoral engagement, let's do it. For me, that is one of the most outstanding issues. So that then we know that when a president comes, like President William Ruto in office now, he should be engaged what to do with economics. He should be engaged to do what to do with our foreign relations. You remember the question you asked, and I think my colleague said that, well, these demonstrations don't affect the government. They do. If you look at the ratings that Kenya is getting on tourism, you know the Mara, you know in Mombasa, you know Malindi, you know Kwale. If people know that your people are screaming at each other, there are those clips that you see that the CNNs of this world and all the media houses are showing how in Kenya, basically, again, Kenya wants to have it. It affects, one, the stability of the country politically in terms of engagement. Number 2, economics stability also becomes a problem. Because then the president, instead of him now even directing resources towards the elevation and solving the problem of the cost of living, now he has to buy tear gases. The policemen are asking for more allowances. He has to involve, we are having a problem now where you have got a lot of police officers dressed in plainclothes uniforms coming in. And then we are having the necessary noise. As you can see already, people are talking about the ICC. I pray, let us not get to that again. I think we can easily discuss and solve the issues that our country faces.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oro Mugatana, you wanted to comment on the taxes?
Yes, I was traveling with a Kenyan who had just returned from the States. He was in here for summer holidays. And this gentleman, of course, is alive to the taxation debate that is going on in Kenya now. And he told me when I went to live in New Jersey, he said, I'm a simple man, I'm a teacher of chemistry. My wife is also a teacher. She teaches biology. And we pay a lot of taxes, actually. We pay so much that when you remove the taxes and you remove the mortgage, you have just enough to just send your kids to school, pay your bills and live. But thank God we've done that for the last so many years. So his point was that the debate should be the person who is running the government at that time with his tax proposals. What does he deliver? For them, it's the president and their governors, the state governors. What does he deliver within the period that he's supposed to be there in office? If we are not happy, you change that person to another one, okay? So he said the question should not be about removing that person by unconstitutional means or forcing that person to discuss how he can do whatever he wants, but he knows if it's in America, he has 4 years. And the state governors, they vary from their term of office. So the question I keep going back to is, why is it that the opposition in this country, led by Raila Odinga, refusing to live within the law? Why are they going to seeking structures outside the law to engage? Doesn't he know that when you lose an election, you wait for another 5 years? This is what is bothering many of us who are sitting on this side, or even those who are neutral. I mean, there is a lady who has woken up in the morning. He went to Marikiti at about 4 a.m. He picked up his burgers, his tomatoes, his whatever. He's gone back to Outari in Nairobi to sell, you know. Then you call Maandamano that day. He's put all his capital there, maybe even taken Fuliza and taken the Hustlers Fund to support the business of that day. You unleash your gangs who are not really interested in the Maandamano. They are just pouring, you know, pora here and there. They meet this lady and take. Why are you involving that lady in your quest for power? Why are you stopping this man who is going for a mjengo? You stop the road, you say nobody will pass here. Why are you involving him in your political manenos? Why can't the politicians go and argue in their arena? Involve us, the rest of us, during the electioneering. But why keep us there? For us, I'm a nurse. I want to go and heal someone. I'm a doctor. I need to go and do my operations. I'm coming from the theater. I am a lawyer. I need to be in court. Why are you blocking the road for me? Why are you banning the country for me? You know, I am a charcoal seller. I just need to go and get my charcoal to go. This is the thing that is really annoying me about the leader of opposition. The man doesn't care about the rest of us, you know. And he needs to be told, because the rest of the people who are following him, unfortunately, are not engaging him in these matters. If there are political battles, fight political battles. Fight them politically. Because for many people, they finish the politics when they voted. For many people, so many people don't even care. You know, they just want their children to go to school. They just want to go to the farm. They want to remove their stock and sell. But then you're pushing them back into that. You're pushing them back. And because you've benefited personally before. We were here last week when Mheshimiwa Afara Maalim said they went into a meeting and they were told, listen, I've gotten mine. You guys, I will give you yours. That Raila came and said, hata mkia ya ng'ombe ni nyama. You know, you were here and he was there listening. So, you know, it's not fair. It's not right. And even if you have those issues, is this the right way to bring them? And my biggest disappointment, honestly, is to see otherwise reasonable people actually agreeing with the way these issues should be resolved. I mean, I really take offense at the fact that lawyers who know what the law is saying, leaders, responsible people that otherwise would talk differently even in private, would actually stand, take the mic in front of crowds and tell them, go, 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 go. You're not telling people high cost of living is brought by high prices of food, so go and dig your farms. You're not telling people high cost of living is brought by high prices of fuel, so let us engage the government on how we'll reduce that. But most important, go and dig your farm. You're telling them carry the, and then there's some people actually do it. They carry and do it. So it's supposed to be like a magic that when you hit there, the food prices will go down. You know, how do you do that? And I'm saying the leadership in the opposition need to be fair to Kenyans. You know, it is like the Shakahola thing. You have people who are just following a leader, following a leader, following a leader. And you can see he's saying, the only, you women must all, fast and die. And not my wife, because if my wife dies first, she'll block the gate to heaven for the women. The children, your children should all fast and die first, because if my child dies first, he's going to block the way for all of you. And people actually believe. So in this case, I feel honorable people, honest people, professionals who have left everything, they are following our leader. They are actually following a leader, even when you can see it's not making sense.
Because I'm the only one.
It's not making sense. So
but also,
I'm asking.
My leader's team, they are also following their leader.
May I finish? May I finish?
All these groups follow their leaders.
No, may I finish? I'm just saying that sincerely, I can sit and argue myself and honestly before you and tell you this and this and these are the measures we are putting. We've reduced fertilizers, we've engaged the country of in a government-to-government deal on the oil. We are trying to do this to stabilize the shilling. We are doing this and the other. Now you tell me what are the measures I'm not doing so that I can engage you.
Yes.
So me, I'm not following a leader blindly. I can see.
Thank you.
But there are people who are
Mugatana.
saying, I'll go and demonstrate.
Right.
I'll hit the thing.
We need to be winding
They
up.
don't follow the leader blindly. It's because
we need to be winding up.
They're
Kuna
public.
shida.
Wananchi wanawaambia. That is the public mood.
Thank you.
Wananchi
All right.
hawaambii.
This issue that I wanted just to raise briefly, because also we have the international community, the envoy trying to intervene. But we've seen also they're being dissuaded not to actually do that. From the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, if you go with that particular clip that I've seen it elsewhere, we have one of the principal secretaries telling them not to interfere with Kenyan affairs, that this is the doctrine of non-interference as well. If we don't welcome the voices of reason, if the church also has been slighted away by the opposition, saying, well, we don't want to hear about, it's not the opposition actually, I think it's just from the political class that we don't want to hear any question or any debate about handshake or dialogue. So what avenue are we giving for dialogue? Or how can we break out from this stalemate if these people cannot be allowed to give their reasons and their voices? Briefly, as we prepare our headline thoughts.
Yes, before because I had responded to that and I'll just sum it up with it because you've asked it again. Just about the tax element, it's one of those things that we would want to encourage Kenyans to appreciate the fact that the government is not doing anything else other than to get money to serve the people. The roads we do, the roads we see, the supplies of medical equipment across the country that we see comes from nowhere else other than the tax that we collect from our own people. And tax is historic. I think it began in the Pharaoh's time in Egypt, where he was taxing 20% of every grain product that you got. And there is a famous, I was reading about this earlier on, the famous lady who rode naked in a horse when she was complaining about the government of England, then in the medieval times, Lady Godiva. She rode naked, protesting against property tax that the government was levying on the husband. So what we're trying to say is that Kenyans need to appreciate the fact that for us to get the services we are looking at, we must also accept to be taxed. The only issue is we build the trust on the government that the monies that it will collect from us will be put into good use, and therefore we will directly benefit out of that which we put into the government. Now, as regards the question that you had asked, which is related to the one I want to close on, about the image of the country, I think I answered that by making reference not to the CSS comments that we are still okay, but to the president's call for us not to wash our dirty linen in public. It is true that these demos, of course, have got a negative effect in the image of Kenya, but we are doing the best to make sure that we disengage ourselves from this conversation. And therefore, when the PS says that, look, this is the doctrine of non-interference, we haven't gotten to that level where we are inviting the international community to a table. Why? Because we still have got this legal framework that can resolve these issues. Now, one of them is the bipartisan team, which I've told you, by the way, we have agreed that we are convening tomorrow. The suspension was done following a letter by our co-chair, Honorable Otende Amolo, that we suspend these talks for the period within which we were unable to agree, right? Therefore, we still have got the right forum. These are not big issues that would, invite the international community to say we need to intervene. We haven't gotten there, and I think that is the message that we're saying. And we all agree on this table that we agree on the issues affecting this country. What we haven't agreed upon is the modality to do with dealing with it. That is why some people are calling for demo, some are saying, look, we still have got this forum, the opportunity is still there. And once we do that, we will definitely be able to get it. And we'll get it right for that matter.
We need to be preparing our headline thoughts. Farah Malim, just briefly your headline thoughts.
This is the final...
Yes, please.
I think we have a lot of challenges in this country here. To begin with, it's important for us to also understand that there are very retrogressive forces that are in the wings, waiting for an opportunity to take advantage of the situation we have in the country right now. I'm talking about the extremist groups like Al-Shabaab and the rest of them, who basically right now are suffering quite a bit of a beating in certain parts of Somalia. And if we're not careful, we might end up with the kind of stuff that we ended up with some times back. It looks like there's too much devotion right now into the internal dynamics of our own politics without looking at the international and the national and the regional. We have, like I said from the beginning, we have lost the edge in many aspects of our own economy because of the manner in which we conducted ourselves. So vulnerability now is creeping in from everywhere. And we're not conscious of that externalities. We are more conscious of the internalities. So it's my opinion that I think as a country we need to come together as soon as possible. The team that has been, the bipartisan team that was talking, when a country goes into a state of external, aggressions and conflicts and fears, it's important that we close ranks. Let me just finish.
Yeah.
It's important that we close ranks. We were in a meeting in Wajir the other day when we were actually decrying the fact that big expanses of our land right now is in the hands of Al-Shabaab. And then I'm talking about parts of Garissa, parts of Wajir and Mandera. And then those are not people who are just going to stick in there. They will want to come and attack us in our own nerve center here in Nairobi.
Thank you.
So it's important that I know that our own intelligence system right now is in the hands of very able, homegrown intelligence officers that were there. I mean, Nuruddin is a fantastic guy, and I'm hoping that he will definitely do a very good job. But let me just finish.
No, we have to finish, Farah.
I know, but
for that particular issue, I can afford you, an opportunity on Wednesday to discuss. We have to finish. We have to finish, Farah.
I know we have to finish.
Yeah,
what I'm trying to say.
We have to finish.
What I'm trying to say is that this country needs to come together.
Thank you.
We need to come together, opposition and the government and the rest of it, to look at the wider aspects of our own situation as a country right now.
Thank you.
And let's not allow negative forces to take advantage of the internal dynamics.
Thank you. Thank you,
and I
Farah.
think we need to give an element of time, also space, to these KK people so that we see what they can do for the country.
Thank
and
you.
if they don't do a good job, we get rid of them in 2027.
Thank you. Richard Onyoka, thank you very much.
For me, I want to thank the, again, wise, wonderful words. Honorable Sigei, the bipartisan team, I pray that you continue. Honorable Mugatana, my brother, you're a senior member of this club. Let us try and configure out the mess we are in and hope that the country moves forward. For me and for very many people in Azimio, we have absolutely no question about the legitimacy of President Ruto. Let him continue, let him put his government in order, let him try and solve the issues of our country. I believe that our country is bigger than all of us. If we can save it for generations to come, then all of us should be treated very wisely and honorably by our history.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dance
My
Mungatana.
headline thought is, I want to appeal to Kenyans to keep working, keep doing what you're doing. If you're a farmer, keep doing what you're doing. If you're a charcoal dealer, keep doing what you're doing. Let's keep working. It's the only way to solve your issues. People who are telling you to go and demonstrate will never solve your issues. They'll never pay your medical bills. They'll never be there to bury you. Ignore these people. Let them go solve their problems politically. They are the politicians, not you.
Thank you.
So I ask Kenyans to go back to work. Ignore those who are telling you get out from work.
Right, thank you.
Thank you.
Hilary Sigei.
My headline thoughts also are confined within the request to our fellow Kenyans to sit back and appreciate the fact that it is all about us as Kenyans. Kenya is bigger than one individual. Kenya is bigger than the politicians, and Kenya is me and you. I want to request my colleagues from the Azimio coalition that the planned demonstration for this week, if indeed they are still planning to conduct them, let's call them off for the interest of Kenya and the people of Kenya and the image of Kenya within and without.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hilary Sigei, thank you. Senator Bomet, Senator Town River, we want to thank you. Honorable Danson Mungatana, Member of Parliament Adab. Farah Maalim, thank you. The historian, the archivist of this country, the institution of memory, we thank you. I know you can take the whole day to tell us more. And I want to thank you, Richard Onyoka, right, for the feisty, of course, fight you put against 3. You've done a good job. Thank you. All together with Farah. Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate your immersive contribution to this. Yeah.